Before there was nobility, before the Netflix contracts and worldwide news, Meghan Markle was merely an actress striving in Los Angeles, chasing roles and aiming to remain significant. She wasn't a duchess. She wasn't a global advocate. Was Meghan determined, captivating, and, as some claim, always strategizing? At the heart of this lesser-known chapter of her journey stands Trevor Engelson, the man who didn't just know her, he wed her. Trevor isn't a resentful former spouse hiding in obscurity. He's a Hollywood filmmaker, well-networked and esteemed in his own right. When he met Meghan in the early 2000s, she was still carving her path in the industry. They connected swiftly. For 6 years, they dated, bolstered one another, and ultimately married in 2011. From the outside, it seemed like a classic LA romance. Two artists making it work. But behind closed doors, fractures were emerging quietly, gradually, and with meticulous precision. Trevor's friends described their union as strangely imbalanced. Trevor was fully committed. He traveled to Toronto frequently when she landed suits, sent thoughtful packages, even considered relocating his career to be nearer. Meghan, however, began to withdraw. No arguments, no infidelity drama, no explosive fallout, just distant. The kind that stems not from distance, but from calculation. When she was ready to end things, she didn't call. She mailed back her wedding ring, literally no farewell, no clarification, just a parcel with finality etched into it. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Trevor wasn't merely wounded. He was perplexed. He'd been told intimate details during their marriage, personal revelations. One of the most jarring, Meghan reportedly told him she couldn't bear children. For a couple envisioning a future together, that's a profound disclosure. And Trevor, deeply in love, embraced it, adapted to it, trusted it. Years later, when Meghan and Harry announced their pregnancies, Trevor felt the full impact of that earlier discussion. He didn't lash out in the press. He didn't issue furious statements, but he confided in friends quietly. What he shared portrayed a Meghan unlike the polished public figure we're accustomed to seeing. According to his close allies, Trevor felt deceived. Not because Meghan moved forward, but because the truth, whatever it truly was, never seemed shared between them. Sources close to Meghan contend that medical situations evolve, and they do. That's not the issue. The issue is Trevor felt intentionally misled about something that defined their shared future. That sense of betrayal didn't stem solely from a relationship ending. It came from suspecting that perhaps it had always been calculated from the outset. What's more unsettling is how effortlessly Meghan moved on from his life. While Trevor was still grappling with what happened, Meghan was already mingling with Hollywood's elite, entering circles that would soon lead her to Kensington Palace. It was like watching someone flip a switch and transform into a completely new person. Trevor, meanwhile, remained silent. No book deal, no Oprah interview, just murmurs. He even considered creating a show loosely inspired by his experience, a man whose ex-wife marries into royalty. It never progressed beyond the concept stage, but the idea alone spoke volumes. He had a story, one that resonated with disappointment, bewilderment, and perhaps a truth people weren't prepared to hear. When Meghan began appearing in headlines as Prince Harry's partner, Trevor Engelson wasn't shocked. It felt more like an déjà vu. He'd seen her ascend before. First, small television roles, then suits, then gradually elevating her social circle. He used to jest that Meghan was the type to leap over rungs on the ladder rather than climbing, step by step. Except now, the ladder led directly to Buckingham Palace. Those close to Trevor say he was never envious. It wasn't about Harry. It was about the pattern. Meghan always knew how to embody exactly what someone desired until she no longer needed them. And it wasn't just Trevor who observed this. Friends from her early LA days, past colleagues, even assistants, more than a few, have quietly acknowledged that. Meghan had a talent for reshaping herself based on who she was with and what the moment demanded. She wasn't inauthentic. She was adaptable, excessively adaptable. The Meghan that Trevor fell for was warm, ambitious, and open. She'd share frustrations about rejection, doubt her abilities, weep over failed auditions. Trevor held on to that version, the one without stylists or security teams. So when she suddenly emerged as a polished, media-savvy global icon, those who knew her before couldn't help but question. Not because she grew, but because she never glanced back. Then came the revelation that stunned everyone who'd followed her story even slightly. Meghan had allegedly told Trevor during their marriage that she couldn't have biological children. It wasn't said lightly. It was, from what Trevor shared with friends, a defining element of their bond. They had, he thought, embraced a different path. So, seeing her become a mother of two later, with glowing magazine spreads and royal photo sessions, it didn't just surprise him. It shattered something in him. He never denounced her publicly, never smeared her name. But the confusion, the pain of having built a life around a truth that might not have been true, lingered deeply. And it wasn't just about children. It was about trust. Trevor had spent years believing he knew the woman he married, only to realize she might have viewed him as a stepping stone. That's tough to acknowledge, let alone process. Meghan supporters quickly note that medical realities can shift. That perhaps she believed what she said then, and perhaps that's true, but it still left a wound. Because if someone declares they can't bear children, and you accept that, build your life around that, okay? Love them through that. Then discover years later it wasn't the full truth. It disrupts your sense of reality. It wasn't just Trevor raising questions. Industry insiders, those who knew both, started whispering. They recalled how swiftly Meghan had moved on, how seamlessly she'd rebranded from aspiring actress to royal trailblazer. And while public sympathy centered on the racism and media harassment Meghan endured, which was real and harsh, it didn't erase the trail of people she seemed to discard without a backward glance. One producer who worked with her years ago captured it perfectly. Meghan was always 5 steps ahead. Charming, absolutely. Intelligent, undeniably. But if you weren't part of her plan, you weren't part of her future. That kind of drive doesn't make someone malevolent. But it does prompt questions, especially when someone like Trevor, who never capitalized on his past with her, finally speaks. He didn't need to go viral. He didn't seek fame. He already had success, which made his account even harder to dismiss. He wasn't peddling bitterness. He was simply voicing what had been unspoken for far too long. The silence following Trevor's quiet disclosures didn't last. Meghan's team rushed to respond. Crisis meetings were convened, calls were placed. Insiders say she was livid, not just at Trevor, but at her team for letting the past resurface. She'd spent years perfecting her image philanthropy, fashion, feminist advocacy, all curated to the smallest detail. And now, a figure from a chapter she thought she'd closed threatened to unravel her image before the world. She wasn't venting on social media or issuing formal statements. That's not her approach. Meghan's strength lies in optics. Appear calm, appear composed, smile amid chaos, and act untouchable. But behind closed doors, sources claim she was furious. Staff were questioned about leaks. Her inner circle was locked down. And most revealingly, she began issuing legal warnings. Not directly at Trevor. He hadn't broken any laws, but at tabloids and blogs amplifying the story, hoping to contain the blaze before it spread too far. But this time feels different. Isn't just another sensational headline. It cuts deeper because it didn't come from an anonymous tip or a random royal biographer. It came from the man who shared her life when no one was watching. The man who knew her before the spotlight. Trevor's words don't feel like gossip. They feel like a reflection. And the timing couldn't be worse. Public Sentiment Award. Meghan has shifted dramatically in recent years. What began as widespread support has grown increasingly polarized. The Netflix series, the Oprah interview, the royal family disputes, it all started to feel like an unending PR campaign. Audiences that once viewed her as a victim now wondered if something too more calculated was at play. Trevor's version of Meghan isn't that of a cruel villain. It's more nuanced. It's somewhat intensely driven, deeply image-conscious, and willing to make tough cuts to advance. That personality thrives in Hollywood. But when you marry into royalty, expectations shift. People expect transparency, tradition, even humility. Meghan tried to redefine those rules. For a time, it succeeded. But every rewrite has an editor, and sometimes the past arrives with corrections. What hurts most for those watching this unfold is the contrast. Meghan often speaks of kindness, healing, and being misunderstood. She portrays herself as a woman who values honesty and loyalty. But if Trevor's account holds even a hint of truth, it challenges that narrative. Can someone advocate for vulnerability while discarding those who knew their truest self? Prince Harry has stayed silent. The palace, predictably, hasn't commented. But rest assured, they're all watching. This isn't a tabloid tale they can dismiss. It's personal. And insiders suggest even Harry was surprised by Trevor's revelations. The question now isn't whether Meghan told the truth back then. The question is, who is the real Meghan Markle? It's easy to celebrate reinvention. People grow. But when every reinvention leaves someone hurt, confused, or cast aside, people eventually start connecting the dots. Trevor Engelson may have shared only a glimpse, but it was enough to disrupt the image. Not shatter it, but fracture it. And once there's a fracture, the shine never looks quite the same. In the end, the truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers from those who knew you best and walked away without a story to sell. Until one day, they speak, and everything shifts.